Welcome everyone to another episode of the Adventures of the Elbing. For those of you joining us for the first time, we have some excellent players here. Mr. Lanovar playing Reese, the Yosoki operative. We have Mr. Finn McCorvus playing Kimu, the can't remember the name of the race, empath technomancer.
Lars Hunter.
Lars Hunter, great. We'll fix that in post. We have Mr. Bonti playing Sistag, the Vesk soldier. Miss Arowina playing Asterbeth, also known as Assy, the human pilot. And of course, Mr. Grumbles the Dwarf playing Ond, the android mystic. So, without further ado, we shall go straight into the recap of last session, starting with Asterbeth.
Yeah, so last time we did a spacewalk and got into the hulk of this thing. They have done interesting things with holograms all around here. We fought our way through, and we managed to get the ship stable enough. And then it seems like an old friend of mine is chained to the bridge, so I ran up there. What do you say, Sistag?
Yes, we breached the hall. Spacewalk breached the hall, got in, fought these gray ones, I guess they were called. And further on, what were the cow creatures called? New Mood, something like that. I had a lot of fun with my rotocanna. Find out I'm not stealthy enough, so I'll let everyone else go ahead of me now. And someone likes to shoot between my legs when they're behind me. Otherwise, we assume we got most of the crew is done. One possibly person, we don't know what, I don't even know what race it was. All he had glowing hand. Got out, actually put a hole through the hall, I think, and got out, where I warned the lieutenant to have the people start going compartment to compartment, make sure we don't have any unauthorized visitors. As we proceeded, I think we were all heading to the bridge at the time after engineering Reese got the engines under control hey, he actually fixed them. So I believe we're at the bridge, or just getting to the bridge, when we ended our session. I'll send it down to Reese.
Well, of course, engines are fixed. Scrounger Yosoki knows exactly how to fix old things and make things new again, and working perfectly, with only minor assistance from the entire group. Anyway, moving on. I think the creature in question was a Copaxi that managed to get away, that slipped out through the hull. We were a little bit forced for time, so I haven't been able to recollect anything about the Copaxi yet, but I will have a gander and think about it. There was also some very strange imagery and some very strange beings encountered. We never did look behind the doorway where we heard bovine mooing, but we did see a lot of greys fiddling about with electro-tasing stuff. So, yeah, don't know, cowboy greys. I don't know what we're going to call them, but they were very strange. They have a fetish for stunning themselves anyway, which was very handy. Over to Arnd, I think.
Indeed, it was quite peculiar. There was strange holographic interfaces, somewhat failing. And yes, Arnd is very, very keen on getting hold of the data. If they have any data pads from these greys that were terminated, because it's going to save him a lot of time in his medical studies. Because they simply probe themselves a lot during the encounter. So why not just use their data? He also has a souvenir, a severed grey forearm and hand, I believe, to study later. And he's learned something about caffeine deployment within zero-G and vacuum environments, and has got to make some corrections to certain delivery systems. Yes, I'll hand over to Kimu for the rest.
Yes, someone, possibly the captain of the ship, had a liking for stone structures, which, when we managed to turn the holograms off, was a lot nicer than the actual inside of the ship. The Greys were very interesting. They may have had a little help stunning themselves, the odd spell.
You should see the
we properly chastised the captain for not taking better care of his ship and saw him off, and they were all waiting to find out more about this friend of Astrid's who knows her well enough to call her Assie. So
Morgana Gribble?
That's the one, yes. So, back to our GM.
Right, so you fought your way up to the piloting section and the command center of the... well, you hesitate to call it a ship after seeing the state it's in. But for now, it is the the best you've got. And Elizabeth has found with one of her former co-pilot or competitors, to be more correct, from the racing tracks. So over to you guys.
So this is where you ended up.
She gives Elizabeth a grin and then promptly faints into her lap.
Arnd, can you help me, please? Or her, rather.
Certainly. What seems to be the nature of the medical emergency? Oh, wait,
Well,
that's my job.
Yeah, and I think it might be something to do with her being locked down here, and she looks like she hasn't eaten in days.
True. I'll begin medical scans.
Right. It's obvious on that she's both malnourished, dehydrated, and appears to have been shocked with some sort of electrical device repeatedly over the last few months, at the very least.
It would appear that she has been malnourished and, to one degree or another, tortured during her time here.
Well, that ends today.
Indeed. I'll administer some basic nutrients into her system and begin the slow recuperation process, assisting where I can. Do you need to speak to her urgently? And one of his fingers flips back and there's like a little electrical pulse thing, like a tiny shocker.
You know what? Let her sleep. And we need to find out what we're going to do with this thing anyway and how we're going to get it back to civilization.
Yes, probably the best option.
So, Reese, can we bring her back to civilization, or do we need to evacuate?
It's a good question. Reese cracks his paws and dives down onto the consoles, basically, and examines what kind of shape we can. Can we program the thing? Will it take a full-time crew being chained literally in order to get it back?
It takes Reese almost an hour to get a full overview because a lot of the consoles have been reprogrammed to do things that they shouldn't be doing. And some of them simply don't work, and they're just paper notepads there instead. But from what you can see, you're going to have to bring over a couple of people just to keep this thing running. You do have the coordinates for the space station that was mentioned earlier, and Reese is fairly confident you can get there, but it's not going to be an easy or fun trip.
While I'm doing that, maybe look into the food situation for the creatures.
In addition, Reese notices that there's some very high-level encryption on the doors, or any system relegated to the 4 pods full of slaves. Seems to be the language, computing language seems to be Drow.
I can read that.
Yes. It's fairly obvious that you would need somebody who's an expert in this sort of system to be able to, bypass it and turn off some of the safeties. One, which is that the captain needs to enter a code every 8 hours, or the slaves all get airlocked.
Problem.
We killed the pilot, the captain, didn't we?
Yes.
So we have 8 hours to get to somewhere where they can help us turn this off.
We do have
Less.
someone back. I believe the one that was in stasis back on our ship that's now heavily sedated.
She's a drow. I don't know if she can do this.
Hmm. Hmm. Oh.
We also have the other crew. They might know more about the system and how things work.
Possibly.
But we have less than 8 hours to get there before people are airlocked, and we can't risk that. Not after what we went through.
Did our scans reveal any of the captives being Drow?
Your scans haven't been able to designate species on most of the slaves because they're packed in so tight that you simply don't have the sophistication level of scanners you need to be able to see that sort of detail when they're packed as tight as they are.
Mm.
And we can't get them out of there.
Might be able to bypass the system, but I can't read Drow.
I can read it, but I can't get past it.
Well, I can revive the Drow noble of sorts, I think she was. We can at least question her on the matter.
Sistag?
What about the lieutenant android we have?
Lieutenant Marta.
Well,
Maybe she.
call her up.
I'm not the captain.
Lieutenant Marta, we have a situation here. Do you know anything about Drow in computer systems? Can you speak it?
Captain, I have a basic understanding of Drow's labor systems, more than enough to know that I'm not going to be able to crack that before we reach the space station, which should be in roughly 28 hours.
We have 8 hours to free the slaves before they get less than 8 hours now, before they get spaced. Thank you. We'll have to try and revive the Drow we have on board and see if they're willing to help.
In the meantime, it would be useful if we could try to get them out of the airlocks.
Into what section of the ship?
Someplace they won't get blasted out, at least.
Sistag?
We still have our chainsaw for breaching.
That would probably get through the doors.
True.
Might injure some of them on not doing it.
I think if they hear something going through a door and they look like a chain, they may step away from the door.
Depends on whether they've got space. It might be worth a try if we have no other choice.
Yes. Also, maybe we should look through the captain's belongings, see if he has any obvious code book lying around.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, they weren't Drow. Why would they be using Drow code?
Because it's basically the slaver code.
Ah.
They could be working for a Drow slave lord.
Possible.
Or with them.
Well, I am busy looking into this. Can somebody else take on it and do a search of their quarters?
I can do that.
Right. In that case, I'm going to need a roll from Master Beth.
Perception, perhaps?
Computers? No, not computers. I believe perception would be the correct choice here.
Or perhaps professional smuggler, if I am looking for hidden stuff on a ship.
Yes, that is even more handy, actually.
Nice.
And as you have more than 2 ranks in perception, I'm going to give you plus 2 to that roll. However, the only thing you can ascertain, giving it about 10 minutes of looking, is that there's definitely smugglers' compartments here, but they are well concealed, and most of them also need encrypted codes to open up. So it's going to take you a good long while to be able to bypass security, find everything, and even then you don't know which of the compartments you're looking for.
No, but I'll just have to start one place, because we need to see if we can find this out.
Well, let's start with the captain's quarters as such and work our way through there from there, I guess, down the ranks.
Meanwhile, I'll turn the ship on a new course, I guess. With Kimo's help.
You can do. Take it back to the at least start it back to the station.
Mr. Sistag.
Did anyone check the body of the captain?
Yes, I did somewhat, not an in-depth search, but I did pick up all his belongings. Well, its belongings. I don't think there was any obvious code, archives, stashes, memory chips.
So if he was holding something, it would be in his quarters.
I would guess so. GM, I didn't find any memory chips or something.
No, but then again, you only did a cursory check.
Yes, so
I'm going to head down and I'm going to check over this captain's body.
It
Copy
should have
that.
been 21 with the bonuses, because I should have had 19 rather than 17.
Okay. Yep. Wouldn't make a difference to the situation at hand.
No, just wanted to point out.
Mr. Sistag.
I'm going to be searching this body as I would search any body or prisoner, looking for any type of hidden military type secret that they have in, just my basic military experience.
Yeah. Basic military search. As a Marine, you would have been trained in looking for any actionable intel, so it's going to take Sistag probably half an hour to do a proper check. Meanwhile, he hears the speakers, so the sound system on the freighter try to grind to life, but there's just a muddled word. It's sounding kind of like Vesk punk rock, but he's pretty certain that that's not what it's supposed to be.
On?
Yes?
Are you doing anything with the speakers?
No? That information is highly classified at this point in time.
But yes.
Okay.
Looking through it, with Sistag, looking at this guy, he's got the types of old injuries and scars that Sistag would assume somebody in heavy combat armor would get. Like most of the areas, like the torso and thighs and shoulders are more or less uninjured because that's where combat armor has the most protection. But forearms, lower legs, that sort of thing, there's he's definitely seen type in some sort of military outfit. No tattoos or anything that can identify where. But Arn does find 2 hidden hiltless, to be closer to the body, mono knives hidden on his body. In addition to a very, very small one-shot, high-powered laser pistol hidden in heel of one of his boots, the size of a derringer, maybe. And rifling through it, he's wearing a lot of pirate captains. He's wearing a lot of jewelry and that sort of things. And one of his earrings seems to be some sort of data storage device.
Captain, I think I found something. I'll be bringing it up.
We'll be waiting.
I'm going to completely get everything off this body. The Morrow knife and the derringer kind of disappeared. Always ready. And I'll head up to the bridge where the captain is.
Yeah, well, as you're finishing up, 2 of the people from the local defense forces that you rescued come up with the lady that you asked to have resuscitated from the lower decks, having transferred over from the Elbing.
Is the Elbing attached to this vessel now?
Are you asking them?
Didn't even know we were attached yet. That's why.
Not attached, no, but the Elbing is following at match speed. Close enough to where, with some difficulty, you can transfer personnel with time and care using the mechanical arms.
All right. I'll bring the 2 and the Drow up to the bridge with me.
Right. The doors kind of shudder and hiss, and Sistag has to kick one of them a couple of times to get it to open up properly. But he does enter the command center with your 3 new friends.
No, I was talking to myself.
I scan them to check their medical state, particularly of the drow.
The drow seems to be fully reinvigorated after the sedatives. The other 2 are still, one is nursing 4 broken ribs, and the other has a fracture in her upper left arm.
Well, I'm glad to see you all up and about. If you can assist us, we can continue providing medical assistance to you.
She raises an eyebrow, looking at Arndt. The drow female stands about 6'4" tall. With a slender but lethal-looking build. She's dressed in some very tight-fitting, but still flexible body armor, obvious of Drow make. Seems to be of the high quality one can expect from the Drow. Their gear is very highly priced, even though they themselves tend to be a somewhat unsavory bunch. And she's got her long white hair up in a high ponytail. Is looking sort of amused at Ond, raising an eyebrow. And, oh, are we negotiating now?
That depends. Would you like to negotiate the remainder of your existence?
Well, I thought you'd at least want to butter me up first, speak of the plight of what's obviously slaves on this ship.
Would it do any good?
Well, at least we'd get to pass a couple of pleasant minutes with pleasantries about the morality of one's actions, but we can cut straight to the chase if you would prefer so.
One moment. I cast, Arndt casts Zone of Truth.
She actually smiles when On does that. And like, oh, how delightful. Very well, get straight to it. Yes, Stag.
Captain, I have this data chip you may want to see.
Thank you, Statag.
Right, so be aware all of you are currently in the zone of truth where you can't lie.
Well, this is a bloody waste of time.
I wish that music system would work.
She still seems amused at the situation, but well,
we haven't yet been formally introduced, in large part because I've kept you heavily sedated since removing you from cryosleep. However, we have been responsible for the recovery you have made from a health point of view. We don't mean you any immediate threat if you are capable of assisting us, or at the very least not hindering us. However, should it be evident that you are hindering us, you'll get more than a light rib tickling from my large lizard friend over here.
I like it when a man gets straight to the point. Very well. If this is a slaver system, I should be able to help. I'm a former slave master, after all.
That would be greatly appreciated. We need to free these people.
However, I am looking for revenge, and I wish to be part of your crew to make certain that I can get my revenge.
Revenge on whom?
That is a long story, but it is a Drow slave master, or, well, half Drow, anyway. My bastard son, to be more correct. In all senses of the word. He goes by the moniker Duke Johann von Mettbröschen these days.
Interesting name.
I bet he never goes hungry.
Yes, it's he has a tendency to pick up ancient Terran monikers, and he changes them every few years when he finds something that sounds more sinister, which I find to be hilarious, as I never taught him to speak ancient Terran, so he has no idea what he's claiming as his surnames.
Can you please repeat that name?
Indeed, I can.
Have I heard the name before?
No, Estrobat hasn't heard that one before.
I've heard many stupid names on slave masters, but that one kind of takes the cake.
I mean, it's more of a savor. Oh, never mind.
So, in short, give me your word, and later in writing, that you'll take me on as part of your crew, and any opportunity we get to foil the plans of Duke Metbrushin, and I shall endeavor to do anything in my power to help you further your goals, starting with trying to remove the safeguards on this. She looks around with a look of distaste. Ship.
You can actually call it a ship in this circle? I don't think I could. This
You
is
get
a hunk
very,
of junk.
very good at lying when you try to live as a slave master for long. And really, I've been in this situation before. Sometimes you just need to believe it hard enough and you can call it a ship. It is technically a ship. Made out of rust and mold, but still, it's ship formed and it has an engine.
Not the worst ship I've ever seen.
Captain, if I may, I have two things that I think we need to clarify before we proceed with this new potential recruit.
Go ahead, Mond.
One, well, I didn't catch your moniker yourself.
I've gone under many monikers, but my true name is Moirut Trenoleth.
All right. Then, Mudlidup, Moira, okay. The two things we need to know. One, we're going to need your word, since that's what we're relying on right now, and we'll have this copied down in writing and signed in blood later. But I need your word as the chief medical officer of this crew that you're not going to mean any ill harm, at least deliberately, to any of my crew members, or myself, or my medical staff.
You can have that. If I wanted to harm you, I could have easily overpowered this security detachment of yours and armed myself.
Well, to be fair, that's why we've given them red shirts. Anyway, okay, that's fine. Then the second point, what exactly would you say your position is on red fluffy dice?
Takes a moment. That is an interesting question. If I was to answer, I would have to say that they belong in classic ground vehicles, ideally petroleum-powered.
All right, but you don't outright object to them being in a bridge crew area. Okay, all right. From my point of view, Captain, she's hireable material.
Mr. Reese.
A little bit more information, please, Miss Trenoleth. We are curious as to, obviously, you seem to understand that we mean to foil slaving plans. How would... space is large. How would you imagine that we will run across the Duke von Metbruggen in reasonable amount of time? Are you signing on basically for the end of your days?
I'll answer that in two parts. One, assuming nothing untoward's happen, I can live for roughly 2 millennia, so I will outlive any of you. Even the android if he doesn't get any spare parts. Taking a century or two off to get revenge on my idiot son seems like a good investment of time. Two, this is obviously part of his operation, because he is actually this sloppy. Meaning that, well, given the relative speed of this ramshackle device we're currently in, And the fact that you had me unfrosted and de-drugged quite rapidly. We haven't traveled far because you've realized that they have the lack of common sense to have some sort of idiot safeguard here, probably killing all the slaves with poisonous gas or something equally melodramatic. Meaning we are within the area of operations that my idiot son would claim as his own little empire. So, foiling him, unless you plan on heading away from it, which is also fine by me, wouldn't be out of the question.
Hmm.
I don't like her.
You wouldn't.
Not
You seem
surprised.
like the type who doesn't like anybody who's prettier than you and in the same room.
I definitely don't like you.
Worry not, though. With my guidance, we can get a little bit of panache and a sense of class into your wardrobe given some time.
I don't think she's convinced, Miss Trenoleth.
Well, you didn't bring me here to ask for fashion advice, or you would have tried to put your best foot forward. But, be that as it may, you have something that I want, a position on a heavily armed starship capable of causing untold amounts of trouble for those who have wronged me, and I have something you want. First of all, the ability to crack whatever half-assed system they've put on this Hulk, and second, I am very, very good at killing things.
Suggestion.
Go
Captain.
ahead.
Probationary status, and upon not killing crew members unnecessarily.
Good thinking, Reese.
Oh, I'm afraid I can't accept anything like a probationary status. To be just having a probationary status is kind of like being just a bit pregnant. It doesn't really help. I would have to feel secure that you will treat me with the sense of responsibility you would do a full crew member
She's
before giving
probably
away my only
trustworthy
playing
on
card.
this thing, and we should definitely let her help because we can't do it alone. I can dislike her as much as I want, but either we accept or we lose the people.
I don't think we have a lot of choice. Very well, Miss Trenoleth. You are, I won't say welcome, but we're prepared to make space for you as a member of the crew.
Excellent. Now, if you'll excuse me, she moves over to the computer station, and you can hear her muttering to herself in Drow, for those who understand that language. It seems she's calling somebody a dipshit.
Captain, since she's now been instated into crew standing, I will make the necessary adjustments to her nutrition schedule and begin monitoring her in her sleep.
Very well, Arndt.
Are you monitoring us in our sleep?
We already knew that.
I didn't.
He's only said it once a day for the last
Not
several
while
weeks.
I was awake.
Technically, I broadcast this information regularly, but just at a low frequency that none of you can hear.
Sadly, you're not very good at telepathic blocks.
I need to get out of this truth thingy. I'm gonna go do something else.
Right. It takes roughly 4 hours till she's cracked the codes. And turns to Kimu and there you go, Captain. Be aware, though, that should we try to enter through the doors into the compartments or open them so that they can get in here, they will still be voided into space.
So they're trapped in the compartments for the time being.
Yes, sadly, whatever idiot programmed this didn't actually program in any way to stop that from happening. Once we get to wherever you're going, they will need a rescue team to actually bore through the hull and get atmosphere in there before evacuating them. I have no idea what they thought this would actually accomplish. If they were to land this freighter on the planet, it would never get up again. That much is quite obvious.
Well, if we can get them somewhere with an breathable atmosphere, then effect a transfer, we don't much care about whether or not we damage this ship. No, we need to set a course for the outpost and transfer first and think some people across from the Elbing.
So literally, we would have to mate a very large ship to the outside of the airlocks in order to secure them against explosive venting, or take it down in the atmosphere.
That, or get a professional search and rescue team from something as large as, at the very least, a battleship or a space station.
Well, we have 28 hours, slightly less, 24 hours now of transit time.
This is a space station we are going to, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the rescue team there.
Let's see now. Nova something?
Nova Star, I believe.
Yes. The Hastati crew were employed by the Nova Star. So there's that space station in close proximity. Their home, basically.
Excuse me, Moiruth. Is there any means by which we can communicate with those trapped within these compartments? I would like to understand their status in terms of general health, nourishment, and so forth for surviving the journey.
Well, normally there would be, but those systems seem to have been bypassed so that they could rig the doors to blow. In the event, cutting all of the speaker systems to any section of the ship. Because whoever did this was a goddamn amateur.
I assume some kind of reprogramming would be too risky.
Well, sir, I'm no programmer. The only reason I could do this is because I know this system. It was designed for my family, and they haven't really changed many of the codes, at least not the tertiary and trinary backup codes. The encryption is quite advanced, but luckily this ship doesn't have the resources to run the full program. You could say that when it comes to sophistication, it would be like downloading you into a coffee maker and expecting you to still fully accomplish all your goals.
Understood.
Meaning, sadly, that most of the functions that I would normally have used to override all of this horseshit simply aren't available unless we manage to rig up some sort of secondary computer system with a lot of processing power, which, well, given the state of this ship, I'm afraid would perhaps make it explode. Although, to be quite honest, I'm afraid of using the tea maker over by that cabinet, because that could also make this ship explode from the look of it.
Yes, it doesn't seem in the best of conditions.
Zishtag, is there any other method we might use? Like, what was it they used to do on Old Terra? Tapping on wood or something?
mice code, I think, something like that.
Could be. Yeah, perhaps we could squeak a message through.
Well, your engineer should be proficient in mouse code, I believe.
Ah, good one.
A question for the former slave master. How would feeding of said transported people take place? And can we start such feeding at the appropriate time since we're in transit for the coming 20 odd hours?
Well, normally they'd be loaded up with food and water in their compartments and then closed in with some sort of hierarchy of the first among slaves to distribute it. You see, you want to reduce any interaction to a bare minimum to reduce the risk of a slave revolt.
I see.
All right. Well, I guess we've got
Practical.
no way of checking. We're just going to have to assume that they can survive.
Strange, though. I've been looking at the systems while breaking down these security barriers, and it seems they were running at quite a deficit. This operation hasn't made money for at least 5 years.
Strange that they are still running it.
Yes, my bastard son might be an idiot by drow standards, but by most humanoid standards, he's still quite clever. He wouldn't run an operation at a deficit for years for no reason.
Has he any known operatives that he would work with or for?
Well, he used to work for me until our family fell into disfavor, mostly due to his actions, which I'm starting to suspect were not quite as incompetent as he led me to believe. But he did have good relations with the Copaxi. Well, not the Copaxi as such, as they don't take that kindly to slavery, but he did recruit a lot of Copaxi that fell out of favor with their armed forces, you could say, for various sundry reasons, usually related to sex, drugs, or both. One thing which a pirate slaver usually has plenty of is, well, sex and drugs.
True. Now that I'm communicating with the Elbing. Elbing, Reese here. Now that you're in close proximity, can you use your scanners and try to determine what species we have on board and how many?
Give us a moment, Reese. 30 seconds later, they get back to... Well, there's not a lot we can do with the current census. I can confirm that none of the species in there are more than 3 meters tall. None of them pop up on the biohazard lists. And the life signs do not seem to be weakening. But the temperature in those compartments is rising. So it would probably be a good idea for you to try to get the life support air conditioning working.
Very well. Thank you, Elbing. Captain, of course, we have to address the situation with the life support. But also, if there is nothing unusual about these particular slaves, I don't understand the finances as such. Why they would still continue this operation? Where's the value in it?
I don't know, Reese. That would be a question to find an answer to.
Speaking of, you have a memory stick there.
Yes, I was about to try and read it.
Somewhat ironic he'd forgotten about the memory stick.
I was waiting to finish the conversation.
Oh, there we go. Kimu takes a look at the memory stick, plugs it into the captain's console, looks about for a bit, finds a faded yellow note with the password written down, enters it, and gets full access. These, there seem to be 7 messages on the stick, ranging from 7 years ago, and one every year up until right now, up until, well, 6 hours ago, roughly.
I'd pass that information on to the crew.
Looking at it, it's written in some sort of script that Kimu's never seen before, but being vaguely telekinetic and empathic, he gets a very unpleasant feeling looking at it. There are some images as well of 4 lines going in equal or in opposite directions, and in the middle, sort of a beak that pops up every now and then.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else can read the script, but I get a very uneasy feeling from it.
I glance at it and try to reference any cultural database entries I have for it.
Likewise.
Yeah. Right. Give me a society roll each.
Okay, I got culture, yeah?
Yeah, that works. Oh, this is a very cultured individual.
17.
Right. Ezrabeth is pretty certain that it's the logo of one of the football teams from a drift station.
I'm not going to say that and just walk away.
But the two of you are quite certain it's a stylized logo of some things or somebody's. Hard to say, but the base must be organic due to the beak. It kind of rings a bell, but you'd have to access better research facilities.
Perhaps Susanna might have something on it.
Possibly. I'll transmit some sort of imagery or a holographic copy of it or something back to the other ship. That might take time. Susanna, I'm sending you 2 packets of important data. If you could begin an analysis of them and let us know if you've got anything in your data banks that might give us a clue. One of them's fairly straightforward to process. It's a schematic for additional fluffy dice. The other one is this cryptic image we've just found. Probably start with the image.
Of course, Aunt, my dear. I'll do my best.
Very good. Oh, also, I've got this 3rd schematic for the med bay. If you could have that sent through and have the med computers working on that, that would be appreciated.
Very well, good, my good man. When are you coming home? I miss you.
Same as always. Soon TM, my dear. Soon TM.
I think Susanna's taken a liking to you, and
I say that almost with a smidge of surprise.
I'd like to talk to the drow.
Yeah, she's still. She has braved the tea maker. It seems to be relieved that it didn't actually make the ship blow up, and is sitting with her legs up on one console, smoking a cigarette that she's scrounged up somewhere, drinking some tea, and going through the records, financial records of the operation.
The system that we rescued from that leftover, whatever was it, a battleship or a dreadnought? Don't remember. Is that part of your son's system too?
I have no idea what you're speaking of, sir. All I know is that I was unthawed from a pod and then very quickly sedated.
We rescued you from a destroyed, badly damaged. Was it a battleship? I don't remember that far back.
It was a carrier of prisoners.
Only one of the pods I recall was a prison one. That's the one that we pulled out. The other one.
But this one was one of the armed ones.
Yeah. So you don't remember how you got into the pod then, I assume?
No, sir, I do not. I do remember going to bed and then waking to the sounds of my personal guard being assaulted from within, I dare say. Must have been a traitor somewhere, and once I find out who that is, I shall show him what a couple of centuries of studying classical torture can do to a creature. But I assume that my son, the soft-hearted fop that he must be, decided not to have me instantly killed, and instead was having me transported somewhere. Honestly, I must say I'm quite disappointed. I taught him better than that. Then again, he did always have a flair for the melodramatic.
It does seem like he turned you over to somebody else's authority.
Which in turn was attacked by we don't know what. Or was it the hive that we finally figured out? I don't recall.
I'm not entirely sure. It could be the hive. It could have been someone else.
They sent all those missiles toward that Hulk.
The ship was Alliance, definitely. They had obviously found out something about the hive, and the hive wanted to stop that from getting out.
The hive? But we defeated them long ago.
Well, they're definitely back. We were actually going to, warn people about that when we ended up here.
Beth, we had no choice. We had all those missiles coming in.
I know. I was one that jumped us into the drift.
Well, if the hive are active again, I dare say we have bigger issues than a 2-bit slaver lord at the moment, but I'm not the captain. However, I will need to procure myself some bladed weapons sooner rather than later, I feel. I fought the hive before. They're not a particularly pleasant bunch.
Yes, we're getting that impression ourselves.
Perhaps you'll be able to provide us with some information then, should we come into direct combat with them. It could be useful for myself and Sishtag to know how to disable them as efficiently as possible.
Well, there are several different combat types among the Hive, I could prepare a lecture.
Hmm.
The most commonly used tactics and weak points.
That would be good.
All
I will,
right.
of course, need access to a computer with a fusion point license.
Well, it might slow the process down, but I'll access the data you require and we'll process it together. I have ways and means of imparting knowledge to you.
Very well. It's seems like it's, if nothing else, is going to be interesting. You're roughly the 4th craziest android I've ever met.
That sounds like a compliment. Yes, it's based on an old Terran television series, the way I do it, to make it more efficient. I put a couple of hands and fingers all over your face, make a lot of noises. It's like what they used to call in an old televisual show called Wars Trek or something. It was called a mind meld, except when I do it, it's called a mind...
Ah, yes.
Hmm.
Maybe I'll bump you up to 3rd.
Oh, goody. I'm going up in your estimation, I like it.
So, you have a long, slow, and quite unpleasant trip towards the space station.
Do I find anything when I go through the quarters more systematically when I have time?
Well, most of what you're finding are just stashes of drugs, alcohol, NG credits, some magazine, one magazine with scantily clad Vesk ladies.
Okay. Interesting taste.
One
But
for Stag there.
In the captain's quarters, hidden inside the butt of a plasma rifle, you find what amounts to a drow passport. Not a drow passport as such. The drow nations would never issue it to anybody not a drow, the drow systems, but it does recognize the former captain of this ship as a person in good standing allowed into the drow systems with the right to work and live, but not the right to procreate with any drow.
I'll hold on to that.
Yes, Mr. Sistag.
I'm heading back down below decks to the door where we heard the mooing.
Yes, having a look inside, you see that there are actually 8 bovines there of the well-known species called cow, a delicacy on most planets.
Captain,
Yes, the Stag.
we have cows on board too.
Bovine?
Actual
Why?
cows?
Yes, moo tight.
Strange.
Remember the hatch we went by and we heard some hoof and kind of mooing behind it? Well, curiosity got the best of me and I had to check what it was.
Do they seem in good health?
Yes, they do.
I mean, I could take a bite of one and tell you better, but...
You might panic them.
Be careful, Sishtag. The last thing you want is to have a beef with a group of cow.
Do you have a stake in these jokes, Arndt?
Don't worry, Kimu. One day you'll catch up.
According to most of your logs, the ancient cows on Terra were known to be quite lethal, killing more people than most apex predators on the planet per year. Which may have made them a very popular delicacy in the Vesk Confederation.
So I'm sure they were a little panicky when a lizard man walked into the compartment.
These cows seem quite docile, even with Sistag walking in.
I can take a look. I have some experience.
You do?
If you tell anyone, I'll kill you.
You've mentioned that one before. I still don't believe you.
I'm gonna walk down and take a look at the cows.
Yeah, they seem to be in good health. Obviously some sort of mild tranquilizer in their feed.
Fair enough. That's logical to do when you have them on board the ship. I'm just gonna check them over, see if any one of them are currently milking and stuff like that.
Well, yes, all of them are female cows.
Well, we can actually make cream if you want.
Useful, maybe.
I'm gonna make sure they are as comfortable as possible.
I'll leave the compartment then.
Now, why would a transport full of slaves be carrying cows?
You have any idea how much a rump steak goes for?
Good point. They're easy to butcher if they're live as well.
And fresh milk.
From milk, you get cheese.
Don't say it.
You do.
All right, Reese, if you want to investigate how to make cheese from the milk from these cows, be my guest.
Hey, Arn,
Yes.
any idea when you'll be able to start working, trying to bring the other critically wounded people in the stasis, trying to heal them up, I guess is what I'm saying.
Ah, interesting. Yes, let me get the up-to-date information out of the ship's med bay systems.
From what I was told by the ensign, the Vesk is actually a combat medic, so it could help you in the in medical.
Indeed, we prioritized his treatment as best we could.
I believe it was a her, but I'm not too sure. I thought someone said it was a her.
Ah, yes, okay.
I think
Probably.
the ensign mentioned it was a her.
Funnily
Sometimes
enough, I
hard
haven't.
for non-Vesk to identify.
Yes, well, I haven't had a chance to do a full body search.
Don't you mean scan rather than...
Yes, yeah, that's what I
No,
said. Cavity scan. Wait, is this zone still up?
I believe so.
From the projected estimates, you would need probably 6 weeks for the captain, the human captain, and the 2 injured that are in stasis right now on ship, or 2 to 3 days in a proper medical facility on a... After all, the Elbing currently is only the size of a heavy cruiser. So you would need to go to full battleship size or a space station to actually have the advanced medical doohickeys.
Right.
From the
Unfortunately,
Doohickey Corporation.
yes.
To get them healthy quickly enough.
And what do we know of this space station that's in 24 hours' time reachable? Is that something where we would expect there to be these kind of medical facilities, or we don't know enough information of that yet?
Let me ask the ensign.
Good idea, Sistag.
Actually, if it's all set, I'll head back to the Elbing anyhow.
See you back on the elbow.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted. I have a tiny dog here begging for snacks and then jumping on my leg. Yeah, getting back to the Elbing, it's a 20-minute procedure at the moment with the arms. But you get back. No fires seem to have erupted.
Captain, if I may, I would escort or check on the status of the heavily injured, including your friend that we have sedated right now. It would be easier to treat her and bring her back to conversational form on the ship. Do you need me here still?
No, I believe we're fine as we are. Thank you, Jan.
Understood.
I'm going to look for the ensign when I get on board.
Yeah. The ensign is at the moment leading a search party.
Anything to report?
Nothing, sir.
Sistag, not sir, please.
Very well, Sistag.
On the space station we're heading to it, how are they set for medical facilities?
I believe the medical facilities on the Mercator should be quite adequate. They're old, like anything on the Mercator, but it was sent out as a colonization ship originally, with all the support that entails, and then converted to a space station once they realized that they didn't really want to go further out into the rim.
That's understandable.
The Mercator is pretty much on the furthest frontier out from the, any civilized system, you could say.
Why do they set up out here?
Honestly, sir, I don't know. There are several different rumors about it. One says that they found rare ores and minerals in the area, and the captain realized that the Mercator could earn a lot more money as a space station than a colony. Another rumor says that they got technical problems and couldn't look for a planet anymore. Back then, a lot of the colony ships were set up to be converted to space stations once the colonists had landed, to give some immediate space infrastructure to a new colony. I wouldn't know, sir. There are several different stories about that, and I was only there for a short time before, mostly spending my time either on a small local system defense corvette or sleeping. The shifts Nova Star had us working were, they didn't leave much time for socializing.
So are you technically still working for them?
Well, our employment was bound to the local system defense ship, so at the moment, I believe we are probably not going to get a paycheck when we get back.
Because you lost your ship.
Yes. And there's a reason Nova Star system defense corvettes don't have any escape pods. Costs money.
But you had 2 escape pods on yours.
Yes, those we pooled our paychecks for and had installed.
I'll be on the bridge. Continue your search. If you find anything, give me a yell.
Very well, Commander. And he turns to theirs and, you heard the Commander. Let's keep going with the search. Meanwhile, on the freighter, Moirot seems to have finished going through the local ledgers, and it's casually leaning over by the door to the CIC center, if you could call it that in that hunk of junk you are. She seems to have picked up a pistol and a knife somewhere, or stuck not in her belt but on it with some sort of magnetic holsters.
Nice.
And is drinking more tea and having another cigarette.
Can I have one of those, please?
Absolutely. I found quite the stash here. She walks over to one of the consoles and hands Esther a carton.
Thanks. I mostly found the harder stuff. I don't think I should do that on the bridge.
Well, I would much appreciate it if you didn't do drugs and crater us into that space station that we're going to.
I'll avoid it.
Did you find anything interesting in the records?
The freighter parked on a planet. Again, just an immeasurably stupid thing to do unless you're trying to very hard to hide from somebody. Seems to have been a transit hub for people specialized in deep core mining.
So the captives on board are probably miners that have been captured and enslaved?
Yes, however, deep core miners, especially specialists in it, are quite the luxurious resource for slavers. I can't believe they managed to run with a deficit. They would have had to sell off 20 or 30 of them every 6 standard months to make money. But instead, they seem to have, I guess the common nomenclature would be burned through them. I don't know what kind of conditions they've been working under, but from the attrition numbers, they must have been hellish. Either that, or it must have been a very, very high-risk operation. Although, in this part of the galaxy, I can't think of a single thing worth mining that would be able to make them break even or actually make money getting expensive specialists killed like that. In addition to, may I add, most planetary governments take offense at their industrial specialists being kidnapped. This operation would have been much higher risk than anything I would have ever authorized.
Yeah, that was mine.
Sounds like a very marginal reward that your son was operating.
Again, this has been a deficit for the last 5 years. It's been losing money head over tea kettle.
And the captain actually has the correct papers, so why would they work here in the French if they have this kind of valuable cargo?
To me, honestly, it's a mystery. There must be something more to it.
Perhaps we'll know more once we get to talk to the actual cargo.
Possibly the only source of answers.
Indeed. I wouldn't know, sadly. This operation to me makes absolutely no sense.
They even worked with Grace.
Oh,
Eh,
you're kidding me. Those little perverts.
nope.
I would never have authorized Grace to come work with any of my people. They make for good interrogators, but you need somebody with mind shielding or just a mind alien enough not to be bothered by them to even get a somewhat effective team. It's not cost effective, and to be honest, I just don't like Grace.
Who does?
Well, here's the papers for the captain. Can you tell me anything about him?
Well, he can't have been in very high standing, or he would have been allowed to procreate. But getting this sort of papers still for a slaver captain. Be aware, in the Drow star system, slavery is not illegal. That doesn't mean that Drow as a whole consider it to be legitimate to go and do it everywhere else, because that tends to cause all sorts of issues. Mostly with navies involved. So a human slaver, pirates, getting this sort of papers, which would normally be reserved for a mid to high level merchant at the very least. No, it doesn't add up.
I think we can agree on that one. Not least of which, what were they sending these slaves into that were running through them so fast?
Seems the operation used something like 400 slaves with an attrition rate of 5% per month. Expected. The real attrition rate seems to have been roughly 6.5, meaning they either skirted on safety or simply had to overwork people even more than you normally would.
Given that the nature of these deep core miners, their skill set, what kind of mines would they be employed in with such hazardous conditions?
Well, the name does imply that it would have to be something where they would have to do deep drilling, very deep drilling, which, again, an operation like this would not be able to fund the equipment for that. Deep core mining is mostly done by governments for a reason, or larger legitimate corporations with deep pockets. The equipment is expensive, almost always has to be custom built. Most deep core mining training programs are roughly 5 years. So we're talking about highly qualified personnel with very expensive gear.
Hmm.
Then why would you treat them like this?
Again, it boggles the mind. Anything with that sort of bottom line where it would actually make money would have to make so much money to be worth the risk that I do not believe any of the governments from my home systems would have passed up on the opportunity themselves and employed a shoddy operation like this.
Certainly seems like someone's back alley or covert operation. Certainly don't seem to be spending money on it.
And you hear, Captain Kimu?
Yes.
This is Lieutenant Mato on the Elbing. We have made contact with the space station and confirmed our credentials. We expect to be docking within the next 40 minutes.
Excellent work, Lieutenant. Thank you.
They are telling us that the Makato search and rescue team stand ready, and they're asking you to bring the ship into... she sends over a lot of numbers.
Astrobeth, can you guide this ship into those coordinates?
I can definitely try.
Just on record, I have spent quite a bit of time during transit in scavenging useful materials for my product Babu.
Yes. You found almost everything you want. Although now a lot of the lights aren't working anymore after you've been appropriating wiring from them.
I
Yeah,
have taken a look through what I've found and taken steps to make sure that what I find valuable and what I want to be taking a risk for is hidden somewhere safe and ignored the drugs and stuff.
yes, I've also looked into how to transfer said cows to the Elbing, but I have yet to breach the topic with Suzanne.
Right.
I can bring her in.
Lieutenant, please signal the station, let them know that we will comply, and thank them for the use of the rescue party.
Very well, sir. Takes another half hour or so, and then you get another message. This time, there's just a helmeted head on the screen. The crew of the freighter. This is Sergeant Angadottir of MacArthur Search and Rescue. Please be ready at the hole you made to be evacuated off of the freighter. We will be starting rescue operations, and we don't want anybody not from Search and Rescue in there.
Understood.
Understood, Sergeant. This is Captain Vimora. We'll evacuate.
Very well. Please be advised that the Makato Council would like to speak with the officers of the unknown warship. We will be sending a shuttle over to transport anybody that you, Captain, wish to bring over to the Makato, while your Lieutenant Mato will be relayed docking instructions.
Very well. Thank you, Sergeant. Astrobeth, you're coming with me.
Well, duh.
And
We
of course,
shouldn't call the rest of the crew as well.
those of you on the Elbing get to hear the same thing from the lieutenants.
That leaves me out.
You
No,
are
it
our
doesn't, Sister.
security dude. Get over here. Captain?
And Reese, Stag, please join us on the shuttle to come to the station.
Very well.
On my way.
Reese comes along with a little bit more baggage than usual.
Good hunting?
Good scrounging.
Yeah, somewhere he's found a wheeled briefcase that he's managed to fill with all sorts of knickknacks.
Useful things. Gadgets, knickknacks. Project. Good.
I'll take your word for it.
better
Right.
scavenged here than Elbing.
A very well-maintained shuttle in red and blue. More or less the interstellar colors for search and rescue, due to ancient traditions, flies up and picks up those of you who want to move over. As you enter it, this is a high quality shuttle, upper end, you'd say, of what you can get these days, even quite modern. And it's crewed, to the shock of all, by dwarves. Unmistakable by their body types and the gear they're wearing, which is also very high end, as pretty much dwarves are known for.
Interesting contrast between the equipment level on the shuttle and that on the system ships.
Yes, you're freighted over quickly, landing inside a environmentally sealed shuttle bay.
Step out into the bay.
It's great being somewhere clean.
It's got a Yankee wheel.
Armed adjusts his sort of holographic overlay for his armor so that he looks like Gimli from Lord of the Rings. This should help with diplomacy.
Or just make them angry. I don't know.
Yeah, as you walk off the shuttle, there are 2 rows of dwarves clad in the whites and reds, on one on each side of the exit ramp, who stand to attention and salute you as you walk out. And another one dressed in different kind of. It's not the red and blue. It looks it still looks like functional workwear, just of a very high quality. This one a female, who walks up with a big grin and shakes all your hands. That's the first thing she does.
Pleased to meet you, Captain Vermora. This is my crew. The first officer, Florence. Security officer, Stag. Medical officer, Arndt. And engineering officer, Reese.
Welcome to the Mercator. I am Ingeborg Botolfsdottir.
And
Nice
what
to
do
meet
you
you.
do, Miss Mother's-daughter?
Well met. I am Medical Officer Arndt of the crew. I would like to assure you I'm well versed in cultural traditions of your peoples. None of you will be tossed.
She just gives on a brilliant smile. Welcome to the Mercator. You've rescued some of our system defense, as far as I understand. It is pleasing to meet you. I am the current chairman of the Ironbeard Foundries. We are one of the 3 corporations that run this station. There is a meeting set up with the director of Novastar and the director of the Vescarium mining conglomerate in 4 standard hours, where they wish to hear everything you can tell us about the pirates that destroyed one of the system defense ships.
And we can certainly pass what information on that we have to.
Very well. Your ship will be docked, but there will be no locking clamps. Let us all be friends here.
That would be most agreeable. Thank you.
Now, it should be another 20 minutes until your ship is docked. Please invite anybody you want over to our cantina, and we shall have a beer and some beef steaks.
Is there somewhere I can go freshen up? I've spent the last 28 hours on that thing.
Ah, yes, the decrepit Hulk.
Yes.
You must have a very skilled engineer to be able to get it here.
Oh, we do.
He is.
Please allow us to provide room and board for you for the next 24 hours, and after that you can choose whether you wish to stay here or go to another part of the station. It's not much, but it is if it's good enough for the Ironbed Foundry, it should be good enough for anybody else.
I'm sure it will suffice.
Captain, about those seriously wounded, it appears they have quite the capabilities here. Everything looks top-notch. Perhaps they'd be able to avail of some medical support. Help us get those severely injured back on their feet sooner, particularly the Vesk medical officer.
Yes.
Absolutely, medical officer Arnold. It is the least we can do after you have rescued our people.
Very good. Ah, yes. Low 5.
Out of a minor interest, there are certain creatures aboard that ship, non-sentient, bovine nature, that we may wish to have an interest in, depending on salvage, etc. But just so you know that they are certainly of interest to retain for us.
Oh yes, be certain that we will be appraising everything of value on the ship in addition to the ship itself, to make certain that you get your standard salvage fee.
Much appreciated. Said bovine can be the source of something very delectable for my people.
I reached down, tapped Reese on the shoulder. Reese, I think you need to say it something like this. I've been referencing Terran historical documents, and I caught this acoustic clip that might assist you. And he begins playback of a scratchy-sounding excerpt from Braveheart that's clearly been doctored by Arndt. And it says, in a wonderful faux Scottish accent, "You can milk our cows, but you can never take our Frisians." I believe if you make that proposal to them, they'll likely accept that you can keep at least some of the cows.
Thank you for the suggestion.
You're welcome.
Very well. We shall see what we can make happen. It's a little more work to move bovines from a sealed environment to another sealed environment through space and still have them be alive afterwards, but we shall take a small fee out of your salvage fee for it. Do not worry, we label everything on the bill.
Most thorough of you.
Now, please. And she leads you into what's obviously an executive level cafeteria, where there's been spread out different kinds of meat, cheese, meatballs, some sort of looks like eggs with dill, that sort of thing, and beer.
I could get used to this.
Now, please tell me of all your adventures. And that is where we're going to call today's session. So, thank you everybody for joining. As you may well know, we live stream Pathfinder on Sundays and Dark Heresy on Tuesdays on the Pathfinding Adventures channel. It's a constant discussion whether or not we pull Starfinder in on a live stream as well. But you can also find episodes from our Starfinder campaign, Dark Heresy campaign, and Pathfinder 2nd Edition campaign on the Pathfinding Adventures channel on the YouTubes. Please go over to twitch.tv/grumblesthedwarf. Give him a follow and a subscription. I recommend the tier 3 for all the fancy emotes, and because he deserves it. And for us, that is going to be all for today. So thank you all for joining. Good night, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
www.twitch.tv/Shoggoth-licious.